prashastis and land grants. Prashasti comes from the prashansa, right? So the persons, there were some persons, especially Brahmins, they composed about the praise of rulers, and these Brahmins are known as prashastis, prashansa karne wale, who makes praise, right? So in the reward they get land from the rulers. So land was granted to them for their task, right? So when the ruler grant them land, that was in the copper form. As I told you that this was a kind of registry. At the present time, if we purchase or sell any land or transfer our land to anyone, we make registries. Same thing was happened at that time, to keep the record of land to which that was belonged. The copper plates were made by the rulers and it was given to the landowner, right? So there was a achievement of Nagbhat, which was written on the written by the Brahmins. One Prashasti written in Sanskrit and found in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh describes the exploits of Nagabhat, a Prathara king, as follows. He praised the king in this way. That was our example. The kings of Andhra, Sindhava, Virbhava, Vidarbha, and Kalinga fell before him even as he was a prince. Means when he was in the young stage, when he was a prince, he defeated all these parts. He won a victory over Chakrayuddha. He defeated the king of Vang, Anarth, Malwa, Kirata, Trushka, Vats, Matsya. Right? So here you can see this is all about the victory of the ruler. This kind of prashastis were made by the Brahmins and they were rewarded as a land grant. Right? The next topic was warfare for wealth. How the rulers were managed their warfare. Their warfare means the expenditure on wars. So they tried to manage it by conquering the temples, because at that time and not at that time, even in the present day, our temples are very rich in wealth because many of the people donate a lot of money to the temples. That money was captured by the rulers and that was used in their warfare, right? So we took the example of Muhammad Ghazni also in this form. So next, splendid temples and bronze sculptures. There was Cholas dynasty. When we talked about the Cholas dynasty, they built very splendid temples. They were the hub of economic, social and cultural activities of that area. Right. Now come to the agriculture and irrigation pattern in Chola's dynasty. What was as I told you earlier that in the modern days we are using different type of agriculture. Basically, to increase the production, we use the multiple cropping and the modern farming method. No doubt, at that time, modern farming method was not there, but that time in the Chola dynasty, the people were using the multiple cropping. Even then, 1,000 years before, right? So similarly, as you are using the canals, wells, and etc. to irrigate our farm, people of Chola dynasty were also using these irrigation method. So it depicts the prosperity of agriculture, how the people managed to increase their production through the multiple cropping and by the irrigation method. Right. So we will learn in this part that what was the agriculture and irrigation facilities were made by the Chola dynasties, right? So many of the achievements of the Cholas were made possible through new developments in agriculture. They made a lot of new development in agriculture. First of all, the river Kaveri. The river Kaveri branches off into several small channels before emptying into Bay of Bengal. It means they made several canals from the Kaveri river to irrigate their. Benefit of these rivers were that when they over the second benefit of this river was that when this river overflowed, there was a type of flood, and it deposits the fertile soil on their banks, which create the fertile area near the bank of the river, right? Second, water for from the channels provide the necessary moisture for agriculture, particularly the cultivation of rice, because rice is a paddy crop which needs a lot of water, and it can be done easily by the facility of irrigation, right? So there were two benefits of the Kaveri river. First, there were several canals were made to irrigate the farms. Second, when the floods come or the water overflow means floods, right? When the floods come in the Kaveri river, it deposits the fertile soil on their bank, and it creates a fertile soil area which provide the basis for agriculture, right? So although agriculture had developed earlier in the parts of Tamil Nadu, but in the 5th and 6th century, this area was open for the large scale cultivation. No doubt the agriculture was done in Tamil Nadu, but this area was majorly used for the large scale cultivation, right? So forest, to increase the land area, agriculture land area, people begin to clear the forest in some region and land to be leveled, because there is a some unleveled land, it means rugged land, where the some land is somewhere uplanded or lowlanded. So they made the land leveled and began to cultivate this type of land. In the delta region, what was the situation? Embankments had to be built to prevent flooding, and canal to be constructed to carry water to the fields, because if there will be frequently floods, it will destroy the all the crops. So they've made embankments to preserve, to save the crops, right? And they made canals to irrigate their farms, right? Next, third one is, in many areas two crops were grown in a year. If we are taking more than one crop in a year from the same field, that is known as multiple cropping, right? So this depicts multiple cropping. So at that time the people were also doing the multiple cropping, right? So there are three types or three amendments were there in agriculture sector. First, there was large scale cultivation, and for the large scale cultivation, forests were cleared. Second, the unleveled land was made leveled. Third, to prevent the flood and floods, embankments were built and canals were constructed. And the fourth was, in many areas two crops are grown in a year, means multiple croppings were also used to increase the production, right? Now what was, it was about the agriculture. Now what was about the irrigation methods? So it when we are growing more than one crop, it means we can't depend upon the rainfall, right? So we have to create some other methods to irrigate our farms, right? So at that time the rulers were very keen interested in agriculture production, and uh, they were creating the method to irrigate the farm, and water crops were artificially irrigated. A variety of methods are used for irrigation. First is wells. Wells were dug. Second, in some other places, tanks were constructed to collect rainwater, which is known as the rainwater harvesting. When the rain comes, the tanks were already built in the ground, and when the rain comes, the water was filled in that tanks, and further this water can be used to irrigate the farm, right? So rainwater harvesting, which will you learn in your next classes. This was not a new technique. This was, you can see, this was very old technique which was used very earlier, right, to save the water, right? So when the rainfall
Okay,
right,
ma'am.
okay, to make the irrigation methods there, it requires planning, a lot of planning required to make the irrigation method. First, organizing labor and resources. Second, maintaining these works. Third, deciding on how water is to be shared. These three things must be planned before increase the irrigation method. To construct the canal, first one I am explaining organizing labor and resources. For the construction of canal, there is a requirement of labor, so labor must be managed. Resources, from where we can get the canals, resources must be there. Second, maintaining these works. To maintenance, there is a requirement of maintenance of the canals also. So maintaining this work, who will maintain this work? Third, deciding on how water is to be shared, how water is to be shared, to which region, how much water to be shared. So this required a lot of planning in the irrigation method. So most of the new rulers as well as people living in villages took an active interest in these activities, and no doubt their activities, these activities was very fruitful. It increased the agriculture production, it increased the irrigation facilities, and the prosperity economic, it brings the economic prosperity to that region, right? Now come to the last topic, I think, the administration of the empire. The administration means bacha, just our government, no? Who will be the chief minister, who will be the prime minister, who will be the inspector, everything who are managing the administration of any region. So what was the administration system of that empire? How was the administration organized? Settlements of, first of all, remember it, there the settlement of peasants is known as ur, right? The settlements of peasants known as Ur, they became prosperous due to the irrigation agriculture. As I told you that by the multiple cropping, by the irrigation method, there was economic prosperity. So the peasants became richer due to the irrigation agriculture. Groups of such villages formed large units called Nadu, right? Groups of such villages where the rich peasants were settled down, they were known as Nadu. Suppose this were a one village with prosperous agriculture. This was second, third, fourth. So all these four are considered Nadu. Okay. There was a village council, and the Nadu performed several administrative functions. Now, who have the work of administration? Village council and the Nadu, a group of village. Rich peasants of the Velala caste exercise considerable control over the affairs of the Nadu. Now, who will check out the functions of Nadu? The rich peasants of Velala, right? You have to note down. First, rich peasants or a group of village Nadu, right? So Velala check on Nadu, right? So and Velala work under the government, right? So this was the pattern. Velala work under the government. So the Chola kings gave some rich landowners title like Mavedan Velan, a Velan or peasant serving three kings, right? Muveda Velan. Aryar means chief. So this type of titles were given by the Chola kings to the peasants who were doing the administration works, and they were as markers of respect and trusted by and trusted them with important offices of the state at the center. Now there were some name given the given to types of land, like Chola inscription mentions several categories of land. First, to whom they were giving the land, according to that they named it land of known Brahman peasant proprietors, land of known Brahman peasant proprietor is known as Velen Vegai. The land which was gifted to Brahmans, that is known as Brahmdeya. The land for the maintenance of school, the land which is given to maintenance for the maintenance of a school, that is known as Shal Bhoga. The land which is gifted to the temples, that is known as Devdana or Trin Matukani, right? Same, if the land is donated to the Jain institution, that is known as Pali Chachandam, right? So to whom they are giving to the giving the land, then that land was named after them. So we have seen that Brahmins have often received land grants or Brahmdeya. Okay, so in the earlier topic we discussed that the prashastis were rewarded in land form. So that land is known as Brahmdeya. As a result, a large number of Brahmins settled emerged in the Kaveri Valley as in other parts of South India, because because they were given the land, and the Kaveri Valley is very fertile area, so they began to settle on their land and began to agriculture. Each Brahmdeya was looked after by an assembly. This land was looked after by an assembly or sabha of prominent Brahman landlords. These assemblies worked very efficiently. Their decisions were recorded in detail in inscriptions, because if they are taking any decision about the land, that was in the written form. Like in the present day, if we are taking any decision, if the government is taking any decision, it is always in written form. Similarly, at that time, if the sabha is taking any decision regarding land, it was a detailed record in the inscriptions, or oftenly written on the wall of the temples. Associations of traders known as nagrams also occasionally functions in towns. So inscriptions from Tamil Nadu provide details of the way in which the Sabha was organized. What was the procedure to organize a Sabha? It can be seen in the inscriptions of Uttarameru in Chingluppat district of Tamil Nadu. Now, what type of procedure was taken to organize the Sabha? The Sabha had separate committees. It has separate committees which always look after the irrigation works, gardens, temples. So there was a separate committee was made to look after the irrigation work, gardens and temples. So name of this, who were the member of this Sabha? There was a eligibility, like in our present day election there was a criteria to contest the election, right? Similarly, to be a member of this Sabha there was some criteria. So what was this criteria? First, the member of these committees were written on small tickets of palm leaf. As in those days, we are also the election commission also gave the ticket to some candidates. Same was happened then. The tickets was written on palm leaf. Second, these tickets were put into an earthware pot, मीन्स जिसको आप हिंदी में घड़ा या मटका कहते हैं, राइट? सो दीज टिक्स वर पुट इनटू अर्थवेयर पोट, देन from which a young boy was asked to pick out the ticket, right? One by one, each for each committee, right? When you played a game, you have to choose your players. Then what you did, you put some tickets, some slips into a pot or into a bowl, and one person pick out the slips, and they were considered as a player of one or another team. Same was happened to elect the members of the Sabha. There were some tickets which were put in a pot. One person or one child pick out one ticket, and it will be considered as a member of the Sabha. Right. So this was the procedure to elect the members. Now inscriptions and tax. Who could be a member of Sabha? Now there was some criteria. The person who can be a member of a Sabha. First, all those who wish to become members of the Sabha should be owners of land, right? The landowner could be a member of Sabha. So, and this land must be included with land revenue. So land revenue must be collected from that land. Second eligibility was they should have their own homes, right? Means in short, prosperous peasants. Third, there was an age limit. They should be between 35 to 70 years. Fourth, they should have knowledge of Vedas. Fifth, they should be well versed in administrative matters and honest. Means they should have the knowledge of administrative matters, and they must be honest. If anyone has been a member of any committee, there was a restriction also. If anyone has been a member of administrative committee in the last 3 years, he could not be a member of another committee. So anyone who has not submitted his accounts and those of his relatives cannot contest the elections. So there was compulsion to submit their accounts about the land, about their already membership. Now come to the last, China under the Tang dynasty. This dynasty was not established only in India. These were out of India also. In China, an empire was established under the Tang dynasty, which remained in power for about 300 years. Its capital was Xi'an, was one of the largest city in the world, visited by Turks, Iranians, Indians, Japanese, and Koreans. Right? So, in the Tang dynasty, administration work was was done by bureaucracy, means जैसे like our prime minister, chief minister, or all the government officials, etc. And they were also recruited by an examination, as we recruit our government officers by the recruitment examinations, and same procedure was there in China at that time. So we if anyone want to be in the administrative block or administrative department, they can appear for that exam. So in this system of selection, officials remained in place with some changes till 1911. This system was prevailing till 1911. Same procedure is going on in our India in the recent days, in now these days. Now you are very much familiar with this chapter, what type of kings and kingdoms were there. If you have any doubt, you can ask now. Students, if